So I hope everything has been going well in your world and that you are able to use and apply some of the tools and the techniques that I've been sharing with you over the past few weeks. We've been talking about the relationships and many, many different aspects and dynamics of relationships and what they mean. And I wanted to kind of continue along that line this morning. I was reading an article in the Huffington Post, and this was from the Gottman Institute. And this was utilizing the Gottman method of couples therapy. And as I was reading about it, it really started shifting the crystal on some of the ways that we continue to control and manipulate and blame each other for all of the problems that we're having. And so I did want to kind of go over those because I thought they really, really were important and brought up a lot of good information. One of the things that I've been doing is kind of like redefining words and looking at how we're using the different words that we use and the ways that we're using them. And this article also defined the word criticism. And criticism attacks the character of the person versus a complaint, which is focusing on a specific behavior. For example, saying, well, you always leave your shoes on the floor instead of saying, I'd really like it if you'd put your shoes away or something along those lines. One of the solutions to that is to look at the situation that is occurring and treat this person as you would be treated. One of the things that I noticed throughout this article and the examples that they were using is that we seem to have a tendency to start treating other people that are the closest to us, the ones that we love the most, the ones that we actually feel the safest with. We are treating them the way we treat ourselves, with a lot of judgment, with contempt, with criticism. And these are the exact emotions and behaviors that this article was referring to. And it was talking about contempt is the worst of these four major core behaviors that they identified. And noted that whenever the contempt develops whenever a person feels undervalued. It seems so much easier to describe a partner's faults instead of describing how you're feeling about the situation. And the contempt also develops from thinking, the belief that you're beneath me. And in the ways that, if you were so smart, you'd know this. Well, if you understood me, you'd know that. If you know how to do this, then you would know how to do that. If you would know what to do or what not to do. These are those very, very covert judgments that we pass on ourselves without having any conscious awareness of it. And in other words, in that sense, we have to have passed it on ourselves before we can pass it on another, because we can never judge another person without judging ourselves first. So this is still going to go back to meeting your own needs, to recognizing the fears that you have, and not shying away from them, but owning them, taking responsibility for it. Don't separate the problem from the person. Separate the problem or the issue from the behavior that you're seemingly feeling and experiencing. When you really become aware of this behavior, it's not going to feel as good or feel as easy to describe your partner's faults. it's going to start feeling more uncomfortable as you start seeing how you're judging in them first the things that you're judging in yourself. Or, excuse me, you're judging in them second the things you're judging in yourself first. And then the other feeling was the defensiveness, playing the blame game. It's really seeking another's approval or permission. And it's really all about not taking responsibility for yourself and your actions. If you are so busy defending, how can you be listening? How can you be hearing? How can your heart be open? And besides that, because someone is not agreeing with you or doesn't have the same perspective, what is it that you're defending? What is the need that is not being met within yourself? Were you seeking permission and somebody didn't give it because they challenged you, because they made you aware of something that you didn't want anybody to become aware of until you were ready to tell them whenever everybody's looking through that plate glass window? It's very, very interesting, the games that we play with ourselves when we're not even conscious that we're doing it. We have to remove the judgments that we hold on ourselves and project onto each other. There can never, judgments are always based on comparisons, and there can never be a judgment without a comparison. And you can never judge another person, place, thing, situation, or experience without having judged yours first. You have to have that point of reference. If you're seeing somebody else as bad, you're judging yourself to be good, better than. If you're seeing them as ugly, you're seeing you as beautiful, and vice versa. Everything that is a comparison is a judgment. Whether we put it in the positive or in the negative perspective, it's still a judgment. It's still making something good or bad or right or wrong. So when you find yourself experiencing or displaying the behaviors of defensiveness or contempt or criticism, you really want to wave a red flag, take a deep breath, stop a moment, and give yourself the opportunity to look within and say, okay, what is it that is really going on here? Is this a need that is not being met, that I'm not meeting for myself? Is this a judgment that I'm holding? Is this about my fear of not being good enough? As long as you are busy in somebody else's backyard, you're not going to have the time to be busy in your own. And we think that it's so much easier to take care of everybody else's problems. And then we'll get to ours. We'll make them better first, and then we'll take care of us. Whenever the reality is, it's just not the way that it works. And then the other one, the last of the four, is stonewalling, which is a denial and avoidance. And what triggers the stonewalling is it's an emotional imbalance. And there are actually physical manifestations to this kind of reaction to the threat. There is when a person stonewalls, they are really functioning out of fear. And their heart's going to start beating fast. They're going to breathe shallow. Their thinking is going to be fuzzy, and they can't seem to focus. That's a literal physical reaction to the adrenaline being pumped into the body whenever you are feeling threatened. And when somebody confronts you with an issue or a situation that you are not prepared for, it can feel very much like a threat, especially if you are already feeling guilty or bad about what they have mentioned and what they've brought to the forefront, or if it's a tender subject. So it's really important to recognize your behavior patterns and to take the steps to do it differently. You are very much aware whenever you start feeling the physical manifestations of stonewalling or of having too much adrenaline, and you just want to get away. You just want to avoid whatever is going on just to get back to that balance. So acknowledge what's going on. Just say, I'm overloaded. I can't think right now. I need to take a break. And even the couples therapy experts encourage this behavior. Uh, but they're saying take up to 20 minutes, but don't ever take longer than 24 hours to return to the issue and to the conversation. And this is a very, very important step in communication because it's really about yourself. How are you not communicating with you? What are you avoiding within yourself? What got exposed that you didn't want exposed? What got brought to your attention that you weren't ready to deal with? And our tendency through our conditioning and programming is to reach out and blame the other person, to attack, and to deny. We're seeing that manifesting very clearly in our public arena at this point. Bottom line is you still have to take responsibility. You still have to own who you are and what you do and how you feel without the judgment. If it goes back to that core truth, you are forgetting to remember that you are the only one of you there is. And if there is no other one like you, then how can anything that you are experiencing be wrong for you? It's going to absolutely be wrong for everybody else. Because again, they are not you. They haven't lived your lives. They haven't walked a mile in your shoes. They haven't agreed to the lessons you've agreed to learn in this lifetime. They haven't made the soul agreements that you've made, and on and on and on. Everything that a person experiences is exactly right for them because it will support their soul agreements. It will support the lessons that they have chosen to learn in this world. But it's not about somebody else. It's about learning to go within to find that power that is yours. And you will be so amazed at how powerful and how in control you suddenly feel when you start owning who you are, when you start taking responsibility, even if it's for nothing more than to say, wow, I really hear you. And I apologize for my part in this situation. That's not blaming, that's not taking blame, that's just taking responsibility for your part in any situation. And believe me, you got to have two. So open the door to communication. Don't keep it closed. Don't worry about being right. Don't worry about being vulnerable. Because the more aware you become, the more you realize that vulnerability is actually your greatest protection. Because through the truth of who you are and owning who you are, there is nothing that anybody can say or do to you or about you that is going to make any difference. All righty. I'm going to take a deep breath here and give you guys a chance to call in. It's 773-897-6227. I would dearly love to hear your comments and your stories about the topics of discussion that we have talked about since day one. That's 773-897-6227. So let's review a little bit. How many of you can name or really consciously aware of what your needs are? We always talk about the needs and how we have to meet our own needs. But do you really realize just exactly how few needs that we as a human being actually have? The needs that we have are comfort and pleasure, attention and acceptance, approval, and feeling important and needed and valued. Those are our human physical needs. And anything that you deny is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just like a fear. The more you deny and ignore and negate the fear, the bigger that sucker gets in your imagination as it's chasing you down the alleyway. But the minute that you stop and turn around and look at it, it's just this little tiny thing. that hopefully you eventually learn to become best friends with, because they are wonderful, wonderful companions. Fear can be one of the best friends you ever have if you learn how to work with it. So again, we need comfort, we need pleasure, we need attention and acceptance and approval. We need to be important. We need to feel needed and valued. Those are not big, ugly, scary monsters. Those are not things to punish and deny yourself over. But whenever you feel like something is being denied from you, then we try and sneak around, not on a conscious level, but we try to get that need met from other people because we hear loud and clear in our society that that is just not something that we're allowed to do. We can't meet our own needs. If we try to be important, then we're arrogant. If we try to seek approval, we're insecure. I mean, there is such judgment heaped around all of our core human needs. And then when you look at the other side of the coin there, what are those needs about? Comfort is to escape pain. Pleasure is to escape feeling bad, whether that's emotionally, mentally, physically. It's on all levels. Attention and acceptance is to avoid being rejected. We are all connected. Whether you love it or hate it, whether you like the diversity that we have, that does not deny the fact that we are all connected, even if the only way that you can connect that dot is to see us as being human. We're all of the same species. That connects us in many, many ways. And because of that, to be rejected, to be shunned, to be ostracized in any way, shape, or form is a tremendous threat to our survival. So why wouldn't we do everything that we can think of within our power and beyond to get everybody's attention and acceptance? Even if it's bad, at least we're not being shunned, we're getting attention and acceptance. And of course, we're escaping disapproval with our need for the approval. Well, why wouldn't we? And of course, the worst of all, in a lot of ways, is feeling inferior, feeling less than, feeling not good enough, and feeling that you are already the worst thing that ever was born on the planet. Feeling useless, feeling unworthy. And when you look at what we're trying to escape, no wonder the powers that be have attempted to make meeting our own needs a bad thing. Because it's only through all of the things that we are trying to escape that our survival is threatened. And when our survival is threatened, the energy is released in our bodies. And if we are not in our power and in our truth, then we are our food source for all of those who feed off of energy. Some do it consciously, and others just do it because they've never been taught not to. This is something that as we become more and more consciously aware of, it's going to seep into your life. It's going to seep into your daily practices. It's going to seep into your awarenesses. You're going to begin to notice all of these things. Because as your awareness increases, so does your vibration. And the things where you vibrated and what you understood at the lower vibration is different. You're learning to attract new things into your life. And a lot of it's conscious, but a lot of it is in an unconscious way, because what you're attracting in is resonant to the vibration that you're now holding. And the reality is that as the earth vibrates higher and higher, every living thing on the planet has to resonate with that vibration. And whether you go kicking and screaming or whether you go and Awe and joy and bliss is totally a choice. But you are vibrating at a higher rate. And so is everything else around you. Things that used to feel good, taste good, look good, smell good, are now unattractive to you in many ways, in different ways. Things you thought you'd never like are suddenly appealing to you. We are shifting. We are constantly being rewired and downloaded as we lose the density of the third dimension. And in order to vibrate as high as the earth is experiencing and expanding to, we have to do the same. And there is no way that we can change our vibration without the world around us changing as well. Where the pain and the hurt and the suffering comes in is trying to ignore it, trying not to change anything, holding on so tight to what has been. That's where the pain and the suffering comes in, to the old ideas, the old beliefs, trying to hang on to the old ways simply because you don't know any new way. Well, that's the point. What makes you think you're supposed to know the new way yet? It hasn't been created yet. We're all in the process of creating what that new way is. But we're never going to give ourselves the opportunity to experience that if we are hanging on to that anchor that has got us planted in that lower dimension, in that lower vibration. And there is going to come a time when you are going to have to let go in order to survive. You're going to have to vibrate higher. The changing beliefs and values in our world creates confusion. Oh my God, why wouldn't it? Everything is topsy-turvy. I'm old enough now to have experienced that spectrum of the maiden mother crone syndrome, of being able to remember whenever I was young and thinking, oh my gosh, I know everything there is to know. There's never going to be any changes. It's going to be all wonderful and beautiful and blah, 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 blah. And then growing up and having life come at me like a 2-ton truck head on, and having to step back and reevaluate what I think and what I felt and what I believed. And, you know, the world I thought I was living in was not the world I discovered was there. And learning how to flow with that, how to change. We've always lived in very challenging and confusing times. Just because it's more in your face right now than it's been in the past doesn't make it a new phenomenon. The only thing difference between then and now is the time aspect. You know, you've forgotten what it was like. You have the memory, but not the energy or the intensity of it. So take a deep breath, you know. Give yourself credit for who you are and what you've already accomplished and what you've already gone through. You bring into this time so much more wisdom, courage, strength, and knowledge than you have even begun to give yourself a clue about. You know, recognize who you are. Nothing is happening to you. It's all happening for us, no matter how we might love it or hate it or how challenging it is. Everything that we are experiencing is designed in one way or another to evolve us, to give us the opportunity to be more of who we truly are. And everything is perspective. Please remember that. If you don't like the way something is going on in your world, then change the way you see it. You are the only one who can do that. The world outside of your perspective is not going to change at your whim. If you haven't learned that by now, shame on you. Change your perspective. Ask yourself if there's another way you can see it. Is there another way that I can understand this? So I read an email And on the flat black and white paper, I take it as this because I'm in a really, really pissy mood myself. So getting this email is my reading of it is colored through my emotion and my mood. Okay. But two things. Step back, take a deep breath. Is this true for the person who is sending it? And number two, if you were hearing this in person, would you hear it the same way you read it? Always a way to shift the crystal. There's always a way to look at the experience that you're going through from a different perspective. And it's always your choice. Most of the time, it never occurs to us to do that. And yet, the reality is that as more people are doing that, that tool, those experiences are in the universal grid. And every time we come up against a problem, then that solution is going to manifest in our consciousness. Whether we use it or not is our choice. But the more that it's there, the more that we have a chance to tap into the experience and the wisdom of those that have walked before us. That is why I keep saying, every experience you have personally evolves all of humanity, because nobody else is going to resolve, respond, react, fail even at the situation that you have. But each one of those possible outcomes releases so much knowledge and wisdom into the universal consciousness, into the field. You know, it all matters. And you may like it or hate it. You may believe it or not. It does not change what is true. It just means it's going to take it longer for you to get to reap the benefits of this universal mind computer, in a sense, if you keep resisting and denying and fighting what's there. Okie dokie. Now, to those of just joining us, you're listening to Easy Knowing, and I'm Sherie Kennedy. I invite you to participate by calling me at 773-897-6227 and share an experience or an adventure relating to your spiritual journey. And again, if calling doesn't work from you, I get it. But please visit my website at easyknowing.com. You can listen to the meditation and create your center and view the tools. Read the stories that have been shared by others who are on their journey. And if you can do so, make a donation to support the teachings. Email me with comments or questions. I would love to hear from you, one way or the other, to know if this information is resonating, if it's of any benefit. It just helps get more of it out there. So again, that's 773-897-6227. And you can also order my book from the website. It's also available on Amazon.com. But it's a wonderful tool book to assist in the conscious awareness, to remind you of the little things that are needed to remind you of the things that you've chosen to do different, the things that you want to bring more into your life. It's never going to be the things, I will say that a million times if that's what it takes. It's always going to be the little things in our world that hold the greatest value and are sometimes hold the greatest lessons. You know, little things like when you defend, blame, explain, justify, or rationalize your thoughts, feelings, and actions. You're trying to get your needs met outside yourself. You're the only one who can meet your needs. You're the only one who knows what they are. All you can ever do is share your experiences with someone. The experience of how you discovered what your needs were and how to meet it. And that's the one thing that I hear a lot from people is, how do I meet my own needs? It's about loving self. It's in some senses it's a big, deep, dark secret, but in another sense, it's so in your face that you don't even recognize it. Okay? It's all about self-love. And self-love is verbally acknowledging and praising yourself to yourself. It's approving of all of your actions. Whether they worked or not is irrelevant. But giving yourself permission to make the mistake as well as to make the most brilliant decision of your life is important. Take judgment out of it. Have confidence in your ability. Nobody else is going to pat you on the back unless it serves them or unless they are so in their truth that they can honor you being in yours. Give yourself pleasure without guilt. How many times do we have to justify giving ourselves a treat, buying ourselves something special, taking ourselves a special place that we wouldn't? Those are, any kind of justification is connected with guilt. So give yourself pleasure just because it feels good. Love your body and see only its good qualities. And that means the warts and all. You know, that is the body that you have. It's the one you chose to get you through this journey, this life. Love it. Whether you view it with having its faults, whether it's ugly, whether it's fat, thin, tall, pink, polka dotted, or purple, who cares? Who are you? That's your house. You live in your house. Fix it up. Do the best you can with it, but it's still your house. Love your body. Love what it is. It may not be what society in the moment dictates that the ideal body should be or the most beautiful look should be. But so what? Does it really matter? Does it affect you that much in the grand scheme of things when you remove the judgment of it? It's a beautiful thing. You know, it's alive. It's healthy, or learning to become so. It's vibrant. It works in whatever way it's meant to do so. Look at that. Embrace that and love it with all of your heart. Give yourself what you want and allow it to be okay. You know, if you don't know what it is you want, how can you give yourself permission to have it? These are the little things. These are the things that sound stupid and ridiculous. And of course, I know all of this, but do you really? Do you live it? You know, it's like people say, oh, yeah, I know all about my chakras. Okay, good. How do you use them in your life? You know, and they have the biggest blank look on their face. It's an integral part of the living being that you call your body. Let yourself win. Give yourself a break. My God, pat yourself on the back. If you started your journey of 1,000 steps and you've only got 1 or 2 steps into it, still pat yourself on the back. You took the first step. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And okay, you may go in and you take 3 steps forward and 2 back. That's still progress. You take 3 steps forward again and 2 back, and you still have progress. Give yourself credit. Let yourself win. Shift the crystal and see what is serving you, what is helping you, what is working for you. And believe it or not, the things that we judge, the things that we hate about ourselves are some of the most intricate and necessary survival things that we've got going for us, simply because we have adapted. And we are incredible beings at adaptation. Let other people in instead of submitting to loneliness. You know, there's such a difference in being alone and being lonely. You can be alone in a room full of people and it not be a problem because you enjoy who you are. But you can also be very lonely in a room full of people because you're not letting anybody else in. Let people see who you are. The biggest shock you're going to get as a result of that is finding out that they already knew who you were anyway. You weren't hiding anything. They were just waiting for you to figure it out and recognize it. Follow your own intuition. Nobody else has your answers. And I will say that 1,000,000 times and then some. No one has your answers but you. And we all have our answers within. All anyone else can ever do is show you how to find them. But I promise you, if someone comes around telling you that they've got your answers and they know what's best for your life, you better run like your life depends on it, because it does. You are just about to be enslaved through control and manipulation. Make your own rules, but do it responsibly. Make the rules of your life based on your truth, about who you know you to be, not on who you think you're supposed to be or you've been told you should be. And there's something very important that I want to inject here, is that you can only set a boundary on truth. You cannot set boundaries on false beliefs. Now think about that. You cannot set a boundary on a false belief, because it's not truth. It's not solid. It's liquid. It's fluid. You will give your power away to anybody who meets the need connected to that false belief. But when you're in your truth, you can let everybody in the world have their own opinion, and it's not going to matter, because you know who you are, and you can set the boundaries to how you will allow yourself to be treated, to be experienced and expressed in this world. But you cannot do that if you don't have the worth and the value, because then you won't have anything to set it against or for. See your own perfection. You have to, if you can admit to the truth that there are no two fingerprints in this world alike, that we are all unique and one-of-a-kind individuals, then how can you compare yourself to anyone or anything and expect that outcome to be valid? All of a sudden, I ran out of juice. Take credit for what you did. Take responsibility. Taking credit and taking responsibility are the same thing. It's just doing it from your truth, from your worth and your value, from knowing who you really are. It's okay to acknowledge that you've done something good or special, and take responsibility for what all of that means. Surround yourself with beautiful things, the things that make your heart sing. Create your friends. Well, let me rephrase that one. Open the door to allowing the people who now resonate with who you are, and discovering yourself to be. You know, as you vibrate higher and higher, all that doesn't resonate with you is going to fall away. And believe me, that's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's not making somebody better or less than. It's just saying that you guys have different likes and dislikes now. And that's okay. Friends are going to come in and out of your life, and some will stay a while, and some will be very brief in their visit. And when they leave, it's always going to be time, just as when you leave their world. But you will always attract more of what is of your resonance, more of those who vibrate within your energy if you will give yourself permission to allow it, to accept it, to trust yourself. Reward yourself. You don't need any punishment. Every mistake that you think you've made was truly an opportunity for you to get it right the next time, quote unquote, for you to learn how to experience that situation and achieve a different outcome. Isn't that what growth is about? Isn't that what our intent is? Is achieving a different outcome from the negativity that we've lived in? Guys, let's think about it. We know so well how to live in our little pile of shit. We may hate it. We may think it stinks. We may think it's the worst thing in the world, but we know it so intimately. We know all the soft, warm spots. We know where to go whenever we're feeling the most stressed. We know exactly how to live in, be, control, and manipulate our little pile of shit. And somebody comes along and says, hey, dude, you don't have to be there anymore. There is a different way. There's another way to experience and express and to live your life. Come on. I'll show you how. I'll show you where. Most people will choose not to go. It may be a little pile of shit, but it's mine, and it's comfortable, it's familiar, and I'm going to stay right here. And then there's going to be those who go out and say, yes, show me another way. Let me see what else there is. Back in the day when we had Jonathan Livingston Seagull as our mascot, he really opened a lot of minds with the possibility of what could be. And it's not that we didn't know it, it's just we never thought of it. And that's all that information and knowledge is just shifting the crystal on what you know, how you understand what you know. And sometimes it finds that little click in your own consciousness and all of the pieces fall into place. And suddenly everything makes sense, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. You are supposed to challenge the status quo. Is it mine? Are these thoughts and feelings mine? Are they what I've been taught I'm supposed to believe? Or is this what I really truly feel? Until you ask yourself those questions, or until those questions are so in your face that you cannot avoid asking them, you're not going to know. It's kind of scary, but it is so worth it. It's kind of like riding a roller coaster or a Ferris wheel or whatever it is that gets your adrenaline pumping. In the moment, it is, but what an exhilarating experience after the fact you have, and a great memory. You have to see yourself as equal to others, because we are all human. We are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And if you can't find anything equal other than that, then you grab onto that one with both hands and don't let go. Forgive yourself. Allow yourself to be loved. Be your own authority. This is your life. You are the one it was given to. You get to choose how you live it. It's all up to you. Develop your creative ideas. Let your imagination go. One of the things I learned way, way back is playing pretend is the key to going within. And the imagination is the key to opening that world. That's why even in the Bible we're taught you have to be as a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. That's what it's all about. Playing pretend. Recognizing in another way that what we are living in is the illusion. Well, if we can play pretend that this is real, why can't we play pretend that the other side is real too? What's it going to hurt? But it could help a lot. Talk to yourself gently with love. Become your own loving inner parent. There's a saying, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. Because we literally have the power to change our past through our present. When you have your aha moments, when you shift a false belief and you understand what you know different, there's going to be a memory, there's going to be a situation or experience of your past that is connected to. And when you go back to that memory and you remember it how you think you do, and then you go back and you change it and you replay that same memory, only implementing the truth of who you are now as your response in that situation, and it will change it from that moment into this moment. When you forgive, when you approve, when you love, when you accept, when you allow what has been, you benefit in what is now. To never say another critical, destructive, judgmental talk about yourself. This goes back to when we first opened the show. You know, look at how we're talking to those and feeling about those the closest to us. How much of how we're treating them is a mirror of how we really treat ourselves when we think nobody is looking. And that's just a signal saying, hey, it's time. You got to quit. You got to go within. You've got to shift your crystal and see who you truly are, not who you think you are, or even who you think you've become. You always have the power of choice. And with choice, you can change. It is up to you. Don't wait for somebody else to give you permission. Always seek your highest and greatest good. And that doesn't mean what's good or bad or right or wrong based on your conditioning and programming or your learned beliefs and behaviors and judgments. It means letting go and letting the universe manifest what is truly to your benefit into your life. And practice learning to recognize it. And the way you do that is by recognizing that you are a beautiful, radiant, rare, and precious cosmic miracle. And so is everyone else. You know, we are all here to evolve our souls, and none of us know what our own is, much less another's path. We are guided through our instincts, through our heart, through our wisdom, through what we've learned, through how we understand what we know. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath here. I would love to hear from you. 773-897-6227. That's 773-897-6227. Like I said, if you don't want to call, visit the website. Leave me a message, send me an email. It would be wonderful to hear from you in whatever capacity that you feel comfortable communicating. And something else that I want to kind of bring to your awareness is that it's through the knowledge of our extremes that we live the wisdom of our balance. If we did not have the extremes of our world, we wouldn't have a perspective. We wouldn't have anything to define a balance within. So, how is it going in your world? Are you using the tools? Are you learning how to be who you are, to give yourself permission to be in your truth, to experience who you truly are? What's it feel like? How is everybody else around you reacting to it? Or are you experiencing the struggle, the strife, the conflict, the resistance, and the pain? Because if you are still living under a false belief, and you're either trying to live in the past or the future. Come into the present. This is where your power is. This is how you get to understand what you know different, to shift the crystal. Everything that you experience in the next moment was created in this moment. This moment is your power. If you want love and peace and kindness tomorrow, then you've got to be love and peace and kindness today. This is a leap of faith. You get to deposit the emotion before you experience it manifesting. So look at what's going on with you. What are you depositing? What are you manifesting today that you're going to experience in some form tomorrow or within 72 hours in a sense? And oh my God, think about it. If we're all doing that, no wonder our world is full of chaos and conflict and pain. Just remember that once a decision is made or a belief is established, it becomes the rule of our action and attitude from that moment on, whether we know it or not, until it's recognized and changed. That's conscious awareness. Knowing that we have choice. Knowing that we really are powerful beyond what we have ever even imagined. And yes, you can change the world because our worlds are the only one that we live in. And when you change your world, when you change your perspective, when you understand what you know different, when you shift the crystal and change a false belief, you are changing your world. And everyone participating in your world gets to change too. And as I've said many times, that doesn't mean they're going to like it. But it's ultimately to the highest and greatest good. If it really is an issue, then you unfortunately will find that there will be a separation. Your energies no longer resonate. It is not good or bad or right or wrong. It's an opportunity. One of you is ready to take the next step and one of you isn't. That's okay. There is no rule. This is a realm of free will and free choice. And I know that we're getting close to the end, but one of the other things that I want to talk about that I think is kind of like the elephant in the room on so many levels is the collective feeling of grief. I think that it's so prevalent in our society from the micro to the macro. I think it's prevalent in throughout the world. We are changing. We are losing so much of what has been when what is coming hasn't manifested yet. There's a lot of fear. There's sadness. There's the grief that we're experiencing with our political system, with the government, and on every level, the sadness that we're feeling about losing what was comfortable and familiar. And to those beloved beings who have lost someone in the physical realm, to all of the crazy madness in the world, in whatever form it took itself, my heart goes out to you. And know that you are being given such a wonderful opportunity to shift the crystal on how we mourn. We could be celebrating the changes that are going on in our world in love and laughter and happiness and joy, compassion, empathy, respect. But instead, we are experiencing and expressing it through violence. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way it needs to be done in the areas that it's being done in. According to the higher realms, there are pockets all over Gaia, all over the earth, that over the thousands of years of humanity's struggle and strife and conflict and resistance and pain that we have experienced, that energy, those emotions are held in her body, just as ours are held in our bodies. And because she is vibrating higher than she ever has before, and because that vibration is getting so high it's absolutely noticeable by the life on the planet, these pockets of destruction and violence, regardless of where they're located on the planet, are being broken loose. And through the releasing of it, there is the expression and the experience And this is where the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding of what's going on from a different perspective can allow you to send the love, the healing, the peace, the forgiveness, the gratitude to those parts of our world. Not judgment, not making those beings that are experiencing and expressing through that for us, good or bad or right or wrong, but helping this energy to ascend, to leave the planet, to be healed, to be cleared, to be released. We are all going through extreme clearing and releasing at this time, whether you're experiencing it through intense muscle and body aches, joint aches, diarrhea, vomiting, whatever way you're going to release, allow it. Know that this is going through you, it's flowing out of you, and it's not within. It's not locked into the body. It's just using the body as a exit point. So let the energy flow out. Do what you need to do to take care of your body, to make it feel comfortable, and to make this process as easy as possible. But do not get locked into the fact that, oh my God, I'm dying, my body's sick, I've got the flu, I've got, cancer, stomach, or whatever. Just don't go there. Just know that you are releasing and letting go of all that no longer serves you. Love yourself, be kind to you. That's one of the most important things that you can do at this time. And in turn, you will express and experience the same with others. So I see our time together is almost up. I thank each of you for listening. So until next week, follow your heart's song and paint the world with the colors of your soul. Bye-bye.